Mexican Revolution began in the early 1800s and finished in 1821 when Agustin de Iturbide crowned himself Emperor of Mexico. At the time, many different things were happening in Mexico. Classes were diverse while the criollos were trying to take over, some mestizos included. There were some signs of emerging Mexican style, still mostly imitating Europe. Race was still an issue with some mestizos being more accepted, Indians not. Contact with Anglo-American led to some expansion after independence. Father Miguel Hidalgo and Costilla, a priest from Dolores, gave El Grito on a Sunday on September 16, 1810, which was a call for the oppressed people of Mexico to rise against their Spanish rulers.
After the father's death, Jose Morelos took control. Like Hidalgo, he pushed for reforms in government. He also called for the Congress of Chilpancingo to sign the first certified document of independence. After the solemn act of the Declaration of Independence of North America, war broke out for a long period of time. By the end of 1815, Morelos was defeated, captured, and executed.
At the time, there also began to develop the strong reliance upon the caudillo. A caudillo is the name given to a strong military person that came to be seen as the only savior for the country during hard times. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna would become the best example of the caudillismo throughout Mexico's early history. He rose through the general ranks and became known during his 40-year military career. Santa Anna was president of Mexico 11 non-consecutive terms over 22 years. He is responsible for the capture and loss of over 1 million square miles of the Mexican territory. The War of Independence was costly for Mexico. After achieving independence in 1821, the country was left devastated and impoverished. Agricultural, mining, and industrial production ceased during the war, and over 500,000 Mexicans died. As a new country, Mexico struggled internally to achieve nationhood. The transformation from a colony to a self-governing country was painful and difficult. During the next 30 years, Mexico had close to 50 governments, almost all as the result of military coups. 11 of them were presided by one man, General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, as discussed before. It was a century of great strife and change. Politically, Mexico was deeply divided between two groups that wanted to rule Mexico in a different way, the liberals and the conservatives. In 1857, a new constitution was written, establishing a federal republic, just as the liberals wanted. In 1858, Benito Juarez, a Zapotec Indian from Oaxaca, became president. That same year, a 3-year civil war called the War of Reform broke out between the liberals and the conservatives. Conservatives wanted to maintain the old Spanish monarchy model to govern Mexico, but the liberals wanted a federal republic system similar to that of the United States.
The Mexican-American War and the War of Reform left Mexico very weak. In 1861, Benito Juarez determined that the country was too poor to repay its debt to Spain, England, and France. When Mexico stopped repaying its debt, England, Spain, and France sent armies to Mexico to obtain payment by force. After negotiations, France opted to stay. The timing was perfect for the French because the United States was in the middle of its civil war and could not aid the country. On May 5, 1862, Mexican forces defeated the French in the vicinity of the city of Puebla de Los Angeles. Nevertheless, Cinco de Mayo has been observed in the United States as a celebration of cultural heritage.
Mexico continued in turmoil, fighting wars against the U.S. and other foreign powers like France. It was not until 1917 when Venustiano Carranza established a constitution that recognized individual and social rights, particularly to protect laborers and peasants. It also declared the equality of men and women and secured protection of child welfare and became the first constitution in the world to include social rights. Abolishing the office of the vice president and forbidding presidential re-election, this constitution continues to govern Mexico today. On the evening of September 15 each year, the President of Mexico starts the Independence Day celebrations by calling out the grito from the National Palace in Mexico to a strong crowd of 500,000 in remembrance of the heroes of war.